We know. Last Saturday, they honored her as they and me and my sister met
All right, if we can bring our attention back a little bit. Whoa, that was very quick. So our younger kids are going to go in with the preschool group, and Mel and Kimber are in there today, so that's great. The older kids, don't forget, we have the activity packets over here for you, but we think you can engage in this. I know that Lyric and Addie are out here, Augie's out here. You all have lots of thoughts about things that we're going to be talking about, so we want to hear from you. Part of what we want to do when we do these fellowship Sundays is remind ourselves that it is amazing that things like this come together at a church where there is no staff. Every single thing that happens at the church is because volunteers do it. And so today we want to pay special attention to or give special gratitude to our hospitality team who's not even listening to us. But hold on. Before they do that, if you have we lost Casey, bring her back out here. I know Ann's here, Pam has helped. If you work with our hospitality ministry, will you just stand where you are right now? Or bring your other people out. Where are they?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and just stay there.
Yeah. Come on.
Stay there for a minute while I make examples of you. Look how cute they are over there. And we got Ann here. I know there are others as well. You know, I think in every way, food, like you read the end of the Bible where it starts to talk about what heaven might be like. Food is a part of that. Like a banqueting table is set before the Lord, is what it says. And this idea that food and fellowship go hand in hand, and that when you break bread together, you have a better chance of letting walls come down and just really connect with each other, especially if the person next to you is a messy eater and the food's falling the other way. But these people are really great examples of being consistent and faithful in their ministry, because you come here week after week and there's food and there's coffee and there's juice. And all of that in every way is a ministry to this church family so that we connect. It's not just about doing a thing. It's about doing a thing for a purpose. And the purpose is that we would grow together in our love for the Lord and our love for each other. And so we want to thank you all for the ways that you have facilitated the purpose of this church, of gathering, of connecting, and that the warm cup of coffee that you serve in every way facilitates so much of the ministry here at the church. So one more round of applause. All right, now you can sit down. Thank you very much. I have a question for Michael Williams. He made that chainsaw carved bear that's out front that says welcome.
Oh, really?
And I want to know if there's a way to do that.
A way to do what?
Make one of those.
Make one of those?
Yeah, what's the way to do it?
It's simple. You just get a chainsaw, start it up, find a log, and
So easy for him.
And that's the way you do it.
yeah, well, what I did is I looked on Google, I said how to carve a bear, and I watched a YouTube video.
Okay,
Very
great. Somebody who made some food this morning, who made like one of the casserole things? Someone? Pam did. Is there a way to do that, or you just do it? Or is there a way to do it?
There's the Pam way, and then there's the recipes.
So if you're making something like an egg casserole, you have to have, the way to do that is to have eggs. So, yeah, I'm wondering, Steve Wilson for years owned a store, he and his family, and they laid floors. Steve, is there a way to lay flooring, or can you just like do it any old way?
Well, it depends on who you hire too, right?
So there's a right way and a wrong way. All right. Those two ladies over there have been involved for decades, really, helping support women having children, babies, literally delivery. And I suppose the baby's coming no matter what, right? Like it's gonna come out. But are there some tricks of the trade, some ways that make it a different kind of experience than others?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is the point I'm trying to make is we can be living or we can be alive. And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And the reason why he said I am the way is because he is guaranteeing that his way is the way. It sounds exclusive, but it's not. It's compassionate. It's saying, if you do life my way, you're going to avoid, if you're that bumper car and you're always bumping against everybody and everything, you're going to avoid a lot of collisions if you do it my way. It's really actually an act of grace that he would say, if you do these things, this is the way you do this, and I am the way. And I think a lot of people just live their life, like we talked about earlier, on autopilot, rejecting this notion that there is a way that is better. But I think God has, in compassion, said to us, it's the way to being fully alive is through Jesus. It doesn't mean that he's excluding people. He's just saying, I want everybody to find this. And so it's interesting that he would say that. And then the early church, so a couple thousand years ago, Jesus came in the middle of all of this religiosity. The whole system of faith was codified by laws. So the way you expressed your faith, the way you showed your obedience and love and reverence to God was by doing all of the things. And the list of things was over 600 laws that you had to keep, 600 habits or rules to follow. Like no one could do that. Like why would I ever sign up for that? If somebody came to me and said the way to have a really fulfilling life is obey these 635 laws, so go, and then give me the list, I'd be like, forget it. There's no way. It's almost like tempting someone to do something wrong, like don't touch the hot iron, right? Well, I'm gonna now because you told me not to. So if you tell me I have to do all of these things, well, anyway, this was the religious culture that was the religion of the day, established by the government and became very governmental, very law and ordinance oriented. And Jesus came and flipped all of that on its head and said, no, really it's not about that. It's about loving God and loving others. It's a place of grace. It's not about keeping all the laws because no one can do it. It's about saying, listen, the way you will be energized, the way you will be connected to purpose, the way you will be connected to priorities is by looking at the way Jesus lived. And Jesus lived by loving those in the margins.
Which was radical, right?
It was completely different than what was happening because the religion was for those who were like the established people, and then so many other people were overlooked. And so that's what we're talking about in this series, Seeking Aliveness. So it's strange, actually, that Jesus would say, I am the way, the truth, and life, and no one comes to the Father but through me, which sounds like a very exclusive kind of pathway. It would be if he didn't tell anyone, if it were a secret, then that would be exclusive. But he was telling everyone. And then he told everyone else who heard him to tell everyone else that it's a narrow road, it's a narrow gate, and it's Jesus who is the one who brings you into relationship with the Father. But it's for everybody. He never was saying you don't get to go. He was just saying this is the way. Follow the yellow brick road kind of thing. Like if there's a road sign that says this way, then why do we not do that? Right? Like it's crazy. And so the early movement of Christianity was never called Christianity. It was called the way. And people were like flocking like by the droves to this new way of doing religion, partly because they saw Jesus, partly because they saw people who said they were following the way, and it was radical. So if you were living in the margin, if you were the beggar, if you were the adulteress, if you were the down and outer, if you were the one with all the problems, and Jesus was coming to you, and then his people who were following him started coming to you, nobody saw that coming. And that became very, very attractive, to the point where it was a threat to the government of the day. And it became this whole huge like religious war. Remember, religion and government were kind of the same thing at that time. So It's no surprise to me that in the book of Acts, which records the early movements and activities of the early church, that there's mention of the way a bunch of different times. And again, what was so radical about this was this system of belief wasn't about a system, it was more about a path. It wasn't about this whole list of laws. It was about compassion and justice and humility and love and forgiveness and lack of retribution and giving things away instead of hoarding. It was not a life that was about yourself. It was a life that was meant to be lived for the benefit of others. And people saw this changing what was that culture, that religious culture. In summary, the lesson today could be driven home 1,000 different ways, but there's no reason for it because we've talked about it, and I don't need to keep rephrasing it. But I do like this phrase that I have. The way of Jesus invites us to move beyond the patterns of self-interest. That's rough, right? Because survival of the fittest, and I need to scratch and claw for what is mine, and I'm desperate, and so I have to do desperate things, and it has to be about me, 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 me. So again, the way of Jesus invites us to move beyond the patterns of self-interest and toward a life of divine connection. Now that is very different than what religion was about then. Religion was really about the government and the establishment and the power brokers. And now he's saying the people who have power are the ones who give it away. And it's not just about where we're going, think about this, but it's about how we walk and who we walk with. So you've heard this say, is it about the destination or is it about the journey? And we become so destination oriented. I'm watching this Ryan Trahan YouTube thing, 50 days, one state a day. He's raising money for St. Jude's. It's on YouTube. You all should watch it. It's this couple going out, and they have to spend the night in one state every day, 50 days consecutively. He had a goal of raising $1 million, and it's way more than that. I'm not going to be, it's a spoiler alert if I tell you much more, or spoiler. But part of what they talk about is, the deal is, since we're doing a state a day, we have to get from point A to point B. And they quickly realized that just getting to the next state, and they have all these obstacles. There's this, what's the thing called? The doom box or whatever. Anyway, there's all these obstacles that can get thrown up. If someone gives $50,000, then they can throw an obstacle in the way. And it's a very cool thing to watch. And they're like 15-minute episodes. So, but the point was that they had to learn early on that if they were all about the destination, they're missing what God has for them in the journey. They're missing about what they would be seeing from point A to B. They're missing the beauty. They're missing the grandeur. They're missing the people. They're missing everything if they're so focused on the road trip. And y'all, that's how religion has been for a long, 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 long time. It's like, get the fire insurance, get saved. You're going to be in heaven at the end of the journey, and screw everything else. And that's not it. Like, it is not about the destination alone. It is about the journey and how we walk on that path and who we walk with. And that's what we're going to break down our conversation about today. And Robin has some questions for us to consider, because if we want to be alive, Jesus is saying the way that you are alive, the way that you are fully living and alive in me, is it has to be others focused. It can't just be all about us. Doesn't mean we ignore ourselves, but it has to be about the margins.
So let's get into it, shall we?
I think what might work good is, after I ask the question, or work well, is that you talk amongst yourself at each table. And then you can have somebody represent what the end result was. But also, sometimes when we've done that, I've felt like I needed to say more after whoever represents the table said something. So feel free to do that too. It's very relaxed. It's just us kind of having breakfast together and doing stuff. Okay. What does the term "the way" suggest to you that Christianity might not? And how does that shape your understanding of faith? I'll read it again. What does the term "the way" suggest to you that Christianity might not? How does that shape your faith? And why don't we take like 5 minutes and just talk about this?
your group? Looking out.
I think he should be around. I don't know what you. He always has the answers. He has
I mean, I'm always like, oh, it's about the relationship.
That's true. That's a loaded question. What is the way to implicate that term?
I'm not.
Manual,
But I
you
want to say I'm
know,
not one of those.
it's like love.
You know, the ones that have all
That might be out of the box sometimes.
this and look like
So
this.
that's the way for me.
It's and that's why they called it the way. Actually, Christianity was given with a derogatory term
I struggle with that. I
by
struggle with
outsiders to the
I know they're like,
way. Like with this, that's what Christianity is. So that means
Come over to the discussion.
I know it's what we're
We're gonna go over the question right now.
Catholic saying, I mean, law and
Yeah, I think too. Good to see. I think too.
So what do y'all think? What's the difference between the way and
Sigh of relief. It's like you're all. No, I'm not.
yourself again.
probably more the way, right? It's probably is more. And you know, which is really hard because I'm not a destination. Sometimes I just feel that I'm a type A and I just want to go. And I miss so much along the way. Still at 65, it's like, I don't know, in terms of something, it's just like, I was going to start with the influence my mom. The journey that I found along the way, and I was
Yeah, I'm not gonna go with this on.
Boy, and I appreciate how you spoke with the faith because every time you like this space is like, but and then you say it's the way it is like we'll see the way for each so it's the only way that maybe
Right, we talked
looks
about it.
very different for everybody, right? It's a personal spiritual relationship. Like my relationship with God is different than hers. We're all so maybe yeah, and the way
Okay,
good conversation, y'all. I can hear you just chatting it up. That's awesome. So cool. Who wants to say something? Who wants to go first? It doesn't matter. Just speak out. Go ahead. Hold on.
All right.
Hold on,
Now we're
everyone.
listening to table number 2.
And God said,
My interpretation was the will is the way is the will of God. You know what I mean? You gotta follow His words and be selfless acts and be righteous. You know what I mean? And He carves the path out for you to listen. But it ain't always be the way you want. Because you go left or right, but the path you choose will build you. So the way you feel is the way you walk. If you don't have faith in the Lord, any way is a good way. Because you gain wisdom and knowledge from mistakes you make in life. So,
All your table mates were nodding their heads and clapping. Good job. They're glad I didn't have to share. So I guess you did it.
Anybody else want to share?
Ashley does. Come on, Ashley. You can do it for us. Our table talked about the journey, not the destination, kind of like what you mentioned, Michael, and loving others, loving God and others, and being connected with one another while we're on that journey. And you know, maybe the difference between that path being about love and Christianity that puts kind of a label on things. Maybe that the way being a little bit more free and less religious and in a box. And then also some people shared about navigating through just figuring out what that way looks like for them, and that it's not the same for everybody. You know, the way is not the one way for everybody because it's different for each and every one of us wherever we're at, and for each and every one of us, you know, at whatever point in our lives we're at on that path and that way. So those are some things that we talked about.
Anybody else over here? Go ahead.
I think for me and for our discussion, we were kind of talking about how Christianity, at least to us, it feels like a cardboard box with a label on it. And in order to be a Christian, you put this static, unmoving label on it.
Rigid.
And it doesn't, it's the same forever. But if you're following the way, you're following a God who's still on the move. Like God's still living and active and moving. And if we're following Him, so are we. And what that means to my faith is that I've taken the cardboard box and delightfully shredded it and did a little jig of joy on top of it and followed God right out of the box.
Amen. Yeah. You know, for me, sometimes I think about, I'm very goal oriented and I want to get to the destination and I miss so much along the way because I'm type A and I want to get there. But what has helped me recently to, you know, delineate between the way in Christianity is looking for the divine in everyone and everything slows me down. We all come with stuff. You know, I work with animals, they all come with stuff. But there's a spark of divine in all of us that needs to be acknowledged. And as you were saying, it's different for everybody. It's different for everything. But it doesn't mean that God isn't right there with us, alive and well, walking it out. The way is like, I'm old enough that there was no GPS when I was younger and we had to just figure it out. But like for me, sometimes it's like a GPS. It's like, did you check your GPS this morning, Robin? And did you slow it down and look for the divine? So good job, y'all. Way to talk it out. Let's do another one, shall we? How do you see the way of Jesus as different from other common paths in our world today? Ooh, this could get dicey. So the path of Jesus as opposed to how the world does it is kind of what that's saying. And what makes it distinct? What's the distinction between the way and the world's way? The way and the world's way.
Go ahead, chat it up.
Selfless versus selfish. I feel like it's easy enough. Selfish versus selfless. For me, that's all it is. Everything I love in the world is selfish. Money gives me more. I want to feel good now. And everything that's inward and just like selfless. I've been something like and resisting gratification, planning but we still think that the selfish is getting the joy, right? The reward is never as good as the selfless. But it's still up there. Oh, I want this because it's gonna feel good now, but then at the end of the day, it doesn't last. But the selfless it actually lasts. What do you think the difference is between selfish and selfless?
Okay, we're gonna run out of time if we don't answer all these questions here. So what we got? Somebody wanna chat it up?
Table 2
Oh
again.
my God.
Hold on real quick. We would like, God would like everyone to give their attention to table 2.
I earlier guys asked about being alive and living, right? I feel like Jesus actually walked around telling people the difference of that, because every saint was a sinner and he blessed everybody and everybody, no matter which title in life they were from, poor, rich, and it can show there's a blessing in everyone because each one of us is supposed to respect our neighbor. I'm an addict, you know what I mean? So I was just living life, just going by. But since I met these people, I feel more alive because I feel blessed that I met them. Which is what Jesus trying to spread on, like you can be blessed, you're the person there to support you in life. So I feel like more of a, as long as we can spread the word of God, which they say God is in all of us, we spread our blessing everyone to feel loved and welcome in his home, whether it's outside, on the porch, or in a box. So that's my interpretation right now.
Go ahead, Addie.
We talked about how some people act differently, like people who are Christians, they act graceful and nice, and people who want to go their own way. Some people are nice, but like I feel like it's kind of like the opposite of what Christians do.
It can be. Good answer. And by the way, there's no right or wrong answers as we talk about all this morning. It's not like you get a gold star or anything. We're just being family, talking about stuff. Anybody else?
One thing I thought of, and this is surprising coming from someone who was a pastor for 30 years, I joke about being a paid professional Christian. But I think a lot of people think that Christianity really just sort of, the way it shows up in their life is 1 hour on Sunday. And the call of the way is way higher than that. It's like 24/7. Being plugged in, being available, like it's just a higher calling, I think, than giving an hour on Sunday to go to church. What do people in my home think of me? What do people in my neighborhood think of me? What do my coworkers think of me? What about the person I drive by and ignore every single day who says we'll work for food or whatever? Like, it'd be way easier just to be the Sunday Christian. So I thought about that in terms of the question of, like, the common path really is say we're Christian because we're American or because we go to church on Sunday or whatever. But the less common path is really to live that out on the day-to-day. And it's hard, we get judgy with each other, but it's hard to be that person.
And sometimes it looks different than that for me too. Sometimes it's standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. And it's a, you have to be careful and you have to step gently, but sometimes people just need that kind of help. And it doesn't always go well. Sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. But I know that God has given me, a shoulders back, head up kind of way of being. And if something needs to be called out, I'm going to do that. And lots of times it's okay if it's not received well. And it's not like called out, like I'm going to tell you that I know everything. And it's just sometimes when you see people being taken advantage of or people hurting one another, it's okay to say, hey, take a breath. Let's not do that. And I like it. And how I learned that was from people in my life that I do life with going, hey, maybe no, don't do that. So that looks different than the way the world does it. The world has ego, me, do it my way, what's in it for me. And I think when you're walking with Jesus, it doesn't mean you exclude yourself 100%. That's not what it means, but it means you defer. It means you consider. Go ahead.
Well, you made me think, and I'll include a some of what we talked about, giving rather than getting, and self-concern, other concern over self-concern, but I thought of the Congressman John Lewis who died, who said, get in good trouble, which is kind of what I think what you're saying.
That's awesome.
Is that we put ourselves out and put ourselves in danger, which is what Jesus did.
Yes.
He died because of it, right? That we stand up for what is right and what is compassionate and what is loving and what is empathetic, and that is not easy and also dangerous sometimes. And that is our call for the way to put ourselves out.
I love that. Get in good trouble.
I also think that sometimes we can be both. I think that sometimes
Absolutely.
we can totally be following the way and feel like we're on the right track, and then maybe the next morning or the next evening or whatever, we're gonna go this way for a little bit.
Or the next minute.
Or the next minute.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a matter of just redirection, continuous redirection of our hearts. In the next second. Thank you. And just continuous redirection of our hearts. And I think when we surround ourselves with people who encourage us to be on the right path, then it's easier to get back onto the right path when we maybe are doing things more on a different way than the way.
Well, table 2 was talking about that, I think. I don't even know if you're table 2, there's a bunch of that's what you are. You're table 2, yeah. Well, about like the people that have helped you and encouraged you, and we talked about it, it's like, it's not the journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey, it's the path that you're on and who you're on it with, because we all need to be recalibrated, right? Like if we step off the road, we need somebody that kind of shoulder bumps us and says, no, you're getting back on the right way here. But yeah, I think we're all fickle that way. We can leave here with the best intentions, and by 12 o'clock, like blow them all out of the water because we didn't follow any of them.
But that goes back to the first question about, the way versus Christianity. If you do the way, meaning it's growing, going, movement, it's not stagnant, then it makes it way different for me if I keep that in mind personally. Okay. This is a great follow-up question. Are there areas of your life where you are living the way well? What might God be inviting you to do to take the next steps? Where are you doing well with this living?
And maybe we just do this as a big group this way.
Yeah.
Because it's super personal and everyone loves to be transparent in front of a group of strangers.
Go ahead, Andy.
Me with acting, I feel like I'm a really good actress, and I think God will put me to the next step to go on Broadway someday.
I love that.
Yes.
I like so much.
Believing for it,
Other
That
thoughts
would
on where
make your
God might be
mammies
asking you.
happy.
Other thoughts on where God might be asking you to step out.
Because that's saying, evil triumphs when good stands by good nothing. It's easy to be a bad person, but if you stand up for what is right and be righteous about it, and after a fool lost their way, you be the light in the darkness for them. So it's easy to spread the word of God and give them hope and faith in themselves, but they don't even do it. Because each person is lost, and just a little hello to a person can brighten their day, change their life around a lot. That's how you spread the word of God. Like give hope to others, even though you don't have hope for yourself, because God is blessing you whether you like it or not. So the more you reach out to others, the more you spread the word and help spread the gospel around. Because it doesn't matter if you're fed, you horse water, but I won't drink it. So if you can teach a person more about God and show them that you have faith in yourself the way He has faith in you, you can live life more happy, more righteous.
It's that showing part though that matters. I don't think people care about what we have to say. I mean, I really don't. I think when you show up in their life, that's where it makes a difference. Because lip service is cheap, right? But actually following up, there's an expense to that. Great.
I get scared when a church community says, I think we're doing well. Because it's almost like we can do a lot better. Jesus did great. Okay, so it just scares me when I think, and it happens to me individually too. I get proud of doing something, and then, I'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking, God, I should have done that or something like that. So it's a double-edged sword. When we do well, we've got more room to go.
Go ahead.
Can you explain the way of Jesus versus the way of the world? Because in order to answer the question, I think that some people may not understand the difference. And so in order to converse in what that is there a way that you would describe the way of Jesus?
What do you think it is?
Please don't ask me.
I retract the question.
I just know, without throwing anyone out there, if I were to invite someone here to hear it from other people, what is the way of Jesus? Because for someone who has been a missionary and a Bible study teacher and very heavily involved in the church, I don't want to explain it. So I need other people that are willing to explain it in order for us to even converse about it.
I think there's a great biblical scenario where Jesus does address this and almost head on to your question. So he was gathering these disciples, these people that he was teaching, this group of friends, right? And these were the people that only had law as their point of context. Like they only knew the religious law. And it was very overwhelming and very confusing. And so what they like to do sometimes is either try to trap Jesus or just ask him honestly a question. So they're like, hey, Jesus, what's the most important law? And Jesus must have just been totally glad that somebody asked that, because he came to say, you all are so lawfully religious that you're missing the whole point of all this. And so he just simply said, and we have summarized that, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, which was a reference to an Old Testament prayer called the Shema, which was out of Exodus. It talked about love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. So it was really about making God the highest priority in your life. And then he said, but also the way that is shown is by loving your neighbor as yourself. And so a lot of times we summarize that by love God and love others. And I think that's what Jesus would say maybe to that question. You can take any Bible verse and shape it any way you want. But I think in summary, the way of Jesus is to say, listen, I love God. This relationship matters. And the way I demonstrate that love for God is the way that I live in my relationship this way. So we have the vertical responsibility to connect with God, and the overflow of that comes through us in our horizontal relationships. And that's with everybody, not just the people that we like. I don't know if that's a helpful summary, but it came to mind when you were talking about the fact that Jesus was sort of cornered with that same question, and that was the answer he gave. William, did you have something?
Yeah, just to keep it simple, I believe that Jesus had two chances. So obviously, whenever God created Jesus, he had the chance. But whenever Jesus was, risen from the dead, God also showed him again the way. So you know what I mean? There's two chances that Jesus had there. So
some would say that Jesus has always been and was not created. But other than that, I'm with you on this whole idea where God had a plan, and evidently how the Godhead works or whatever, they made this plan. And Jesus even said at one point, I don't necessarily want to walk the way right now. So if there's a cup, if this cup can pass me, then I won't do this. But that idea of he gave himself and is a model of self-sacrifice and serving others, I think is a beautiful statement. Yeah. Good stuff, gang.
Try one more? Yeah, for two. As a group or a community, how can we better reflect the way, not just in words, but in actions? As a group or community, how can we better reflect the way, not just in words, but in actions? Go ahead.
Sit back.
Caring for others.
I mean, I think we did it at FOAC the other day.
You told me earlier you had a bad attitude.
But
It's out of love.
Okay.
No, but
a bad attitude
I
out of love.
want to talk about that for a minute. Your bad attitude was based on you wanted to make it happen, get it done, do it right, do it well.
And not have the older people do it.
And not have the old. So I didn't see it as a bad attitude. I saw it as you stepping up. When I was talking about the other question about that shoulders back, head up, let's do this kind of thing. That's what I saw. I saw a little bit of frustration, but frustration is a normal part of life, especially when you're doing something new or doing something outside the box. I don't like to talk about, well, that's not true. I try not to talk about dogs and FOAC all the time because my friends are starting to get bored with me. And that's just how it's gonna go. But that to me was church. When we did that outreach, to me, that was
So if people don't know, let me give the context.
Yeah.
Every 5 or 6 weeks, we close for service. We don't do church here in a service. We go out and we serve the community. Last week, Robin and the outreach team set up for us to go and do a lot of work at the Friends of Animal Community, which is right on Tuolumne Road, right adjacent to a huge church, and lots of cars driving by. And there's this big spectacle of all these people sweating and serving and doing all kinds of great things. As a part of supporting and encouraging God's creation, and the people who are passionate about what was there. And we were teasing him because he sweated through his first layer of clothes about 2 minutes after he got there because he was working so hard. So that's what that was.
But I got a really cool story. So my sister's in counseling, and she would be okay with me saying that. And I don't know how it came up or whatever, but her counselor said something about what were all those cars? Oh, because she was talking to her counselor about trying and doing new things, and she said my sister does that all the time. And she's doing the FOAC thing now. And he said, I saw all those cars there, and that's a church? That's a group of people that does that? And he was like, I want to go to that church. So we are like this. This is different. If you come here and you're expecting church today, this is church. It just is going to look different. If we come and you come to church on an outreach, it is church. It's just going to look different because we are trying not to be different for difference sake, but to be different to follow the way, to follow what Jesus would do.
So 3 of my sisters, we were all here, 4 of my sisters and me and my mom, we spent the weekend together last weekend, and 3 of them came to the FOAC event with us. One of them was tipping kennels with you.
Christina.
But I have a sister who is very involved with her church in South Carolina, is where she lives, and I noticed that she posted on Facebook that their in-home Bible study is going to be on a regular basis doing outreach projects.
Nice.
And that was after she was pulling star thistle for 2 hours, and had thorns in her finger. So there is something that happens. Like I'll respond to something else. Just a thought. I don't think that when we give ourselves away, we're depleting ourselves. Like if we are a vessel and we only have capacity for 8 ounces of life water, I think the overflow of that is, God pouring into us. But I think that when we tip ourselves out, something is filling us back up. I don't think we actually ever run dry when we're serving other people. Now there are times where maybe we're fragile and thin and we need to pay attention to our own soul health because it's too much. But this idea that if we're doing it in a way that's meeting the needs of people, then our needs get met in that process too. And maybe, I don't know how that works. There's something in God's economy that is just different, that we all left FOAC saying, this was a day well spent. And it was only 2 hours. The list was 500 miles long, and no one thought it would all get done in 2 hours, and it did. I couldn't do physical work because of my back issue right now, but I was in like mopping floors and helping sort through things, and everywhere I went around there, it was great. And I met the dog Duke, who was a pretty cool dog too. So like my life was better, and I left feeling like this was a good thing. I almost didn't go because I thought the work was going to be too physical, but regardless, I think in answer to the question, as a group or community, how can we better reflect the way, this idea of giving to others, is that when we hear about these close for service projects, jump in. And jump in at whatever level you can do it. Not everybody there is able to lift kennels and haul gravel or has a tractor to move the gravel around. But every little bit matters. Every little thing that happened that day mattered. Shirley Rose.
Hung up dog clothes.
That's awesome.
Right. Outfits, ballerina outfits. Hundreds of them.
She also found a skirt for our dog that was rainbow and said pride on it. So I don't know if our dog has never worn clothes, so maybe that's the first question. Yeah, go ahead. You want me to? I think like the question of being fully alive versus just living, just breathing, is this idea of where do we focus our heart's intent? And we've talked a lot about that today, so hopefully it sticks. But hopefully what we leave with is this idea that Jesus has really called us to give ourselves away, and that listen to this because it's super important. In the condition that we're in now.
Amen.
Like we don't have to wait to get all dolled up, spiritually or our character, to be shining examples of all that is right and good before we can start giving ourselves away. It's probably in that process of giving away that we become more like Christ. So I think a lot of us tend to think, well, I got all this I got to work on, I got to do this before I can do the next thing. And I don't think it's true. I think we should just jump into the game. It's kind of like a parade. You want to jump in the parade or you just want to sit on the sideline? Because as soon as you jump in the parade, you are in the parade. And I would say that that's probably what the way is about, like what Jesus was saying. It's like, just like you have something to offer people. Like do it, figure it out. And if you can't figure it out on your own, then jump on board with the people around you that you're living life with and let it be contagious and do something. I would have not gone to FOAC on my own. Not because I don't like animals and not because I don't respect their work, but because I just wouldn't have taken the time to do that. But I felt that way I was doing homeless services for the county, and like 2 years before that, I don't think I would have ever gone to Camp Hope on my own, but we were down there serving breakfast with people.
And that's the beauty of together, because I got swept up in your passion for that when we did that, and I jumped in with you because it was something that was important to you. There's something that's important and God has put on all your hearts that we can share together and jump in together, and that is the way. Salvation isn't just okay, I get into heaven. It's the active process of working it out with each other day by day in all of this.
We go to Modesto every Thursday and box up food for families.
I know, it's amazing.
Nice.
And someone else from the table too talks out loud.
Woo-hoo.
I'm gonna transition to our announcements. And I know that sounds weird, but it's totally at the heart of what this is all about. As a community, what can we do as a gathering? What can we do to make things better for people in our proximity?
When you explained as Jesus being the way, and you said, to the scripture of loving your neighbor as yourself, one thing that I would just like to share is that means that you have to love yourself first in order to love your neighbor. So as you go out and you do all these things for the community, it is super important to make sure that you're fed and you have water and you're clothed. And once you are there, then you're loving your neighbor as you have loved yourself. Because oftentimes in the churches, I think it's stressed to go out and do. And then it can be depleting if you're not focused on getting your energy from God and Jesus being the Father, the Spirit, and the Son all in one.
the Trinity, and I think that's important to understand that Jesus is God for people who don't understand who Jesus is. Always has been, but that you're actually remembering to fill up your soul and to get your energy from the source, from God, and then doing that to help others get that as well. Because I think it's sometimes we forget to rest and to eat. But then we do have that continued energy to give once we do that.
I think it's a great one. William gets the
What
final
we can
comment.
do as a church, a community, so as far as like the Refuge and the Lano Club, once you first come in your first 30 days, you get a phone list. So we can start grouping up. It's, you know, like us, we go on Tuesdays, the men go on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock and we go grocery shopping for like an hour and a half, you know, together. So, you know, in the future, you know what I mean? August the 17th, 15, 20 of us go grocery shopping at 5 o'clock p.m., you know, and then return back here. Or return back, or meet here at 5 o'clock, and go grocery shopping, and go to our house, you know what I mean? 15, 20 of us at one time, you know, because everybody needs, you know, that kind of environment.
Gathering together, it matters, doesn't it? Yeah, those are great insights, folks. Thanks. So this is relevant, but it might not seem like it. Recently, the leadership and shepherding team of the church put a survey out about recovery ministries because we have felt it to be a high priority. And the leadership team from Celebrate Recovery had stepped aside after years of faithful service and effective outreach in the community, and we appreciate that. And so we put a survey out with a variety of information in it, and I just want to let you know the results of that because it is our attempt to try to be the church on the way who is helping people like connect with the Lord kind of where they are with their hurts, hang-ups, and habits. And so the church gave us permission to reach out to the Connection Church who does Celebrate Recovery on Friday night. The church gave permission for us to connect with Chris Kahn and his leadership team at Refuge Recovery to talk about the possibility of bringing a group therapy session one time a week to this group that's with a therapist. Celebrate Recovery is great. There's a whole bunch of energy and encouragement that happens there. And some people really thrive in that kind of environment. Other people maybe just want to get right to the brass tacks in a therapy session. So we were given permission for that. We were also given permission to take our approved budget, the money that we have in our budget for recovery ministries, and dedicate that to the work of the Connection Church over on Tuolumne Road. And so that's all exciting. Made contact with the pastor of that church, whose name is Michael Redinger, and he is meeting with some of us from the leadership and outreach team on Tuesday morning to talk about what that looks like. Another group of us went to their Celebrate Recovery group meeting on Friday night, and you know they got it dialed in. There's no reason for us to try to make something happen when they have it happening already. So how can we jump in? We had 11 people in that survey say that they were willing to volunteer in whatever way that means to help support that ministry over there. So it's pretty cool that that's happening. And so I think that's one example of the way works, is that we just do that with them. It's not just about our church, it's about our community. And so I think that is great. Augie is going to go over and grab those flyers on Summer Splash. Another thing that we're doing is called Summer Splash. We've done it the last couple of years. It's really meant to be an outreach for just an opportunity to host families, and so it's going to take place on August 17th from 10 to noon. Why don't you just walk around and hand them out to people if they want. Use these as an invitation to people, but what's happening is there's a taco truck, there are water slides, there's all kinds of games, there's indoor games for people who don't want to be in the splash zone. There is, like I said, the taco truck, the snow cone truck is coming. What are they called? Kona Ice is coming. It's going to be a really great morning. These things don't happen without you inviting people. So it's meant for us, but it's meant for other families. And so I think it would be great. Last year we had around 85 or 100 people. I don't really care about how many people come. I just want to make sure that you invite people that you want to be there. The problem is that does not happen on its own, so we need some volunteers. And I've divided the volunteer list out in a couple of ways. One is you can sign up today, but also in the church email, there's a link where you can just sign up on the survey and do that. But here I have, like, we need event setup people from 8 to 10 in the morning. And we're doing this on a Sunday morning as our close for service project. So I have people's names over here that already volunteered. Anyway, you can sign up for that. And we need some people to help with the hospitality team. And we're only providing drinks that morning, beverages for people to drink, because we have the food truck that's going to be here. We need some adults that are monitoring the water slides. The last couple of years, it's been very rambunctious over
Do we get a whistle?
We can maybe get whistles, yeah.
I'll do it if I
All
get a
right,
whistle.
so sign up for that. And then we have outdoor games, giant Jenga, and the Connect board, and all that kind of stuff. We need some people to handle that. We have we need somebody to handle the indoor table games. I don't know what those are going to be, but it's just meant to be a calmer, drier version of what's going on outside the doors. And then event cleanup, which we can use 1,000 people for that. So I'm going to pass that around because I think it's an opportunity for us to sort of put in action what we were talking a little bit about. Yes, sir.
Talk about the dry zone for people that don't want to get soaked.
I mean, the only place that's really a dry zone is inside. The food tables will be outside, and we have some farther away, and the water stuff happens over there. But it's a little bit like going to a pool party and getting mad that you got wet. And Michael.
Some of the newer credentials just changed. How do they sign up to be on the church email?
So there's a QR code on that stand right behind. It's Robert, right? There. Sorry, right there. So scan that, and it'll give you all the step-by-step instructions on how to get signed up for that, or talk to myself or Michelle, who's over there. And then finally, I did want to talk about. We are having a baptism this summer as well on August 31st, which is the Sunday of Labor Day. And because it's at Brentwood Lake, we're going to not have like a big long service or a big meal because it's Labor Day weekend and that lake will get really packed and it's a private lake. So we're just literally going to have a worship song or two and then the baptisms. And we would love to have anyone who wants to get baptized that morning as an expression of kind of the next step on the way, the journey for you, to let us know. And Deb is the leader in our discipleship. She would be the one to chat with about that. It also doesn't actually matter if you talk to anyone that morning. You could just jump in if you want, but we'll try to connect people to that as well. So with all of that, I just wanted to say that I think it's really important that we each consider that walking the journey on the way is more than an hour on Sunday. And you work it out with God and ask the Spirit to help guide you, but do something that's not about yourself. We need to do things that are not about ourselves. And there are plenty of opportunities.
We have lots of leftovers too. Please come up and help yourself.
Earlier it was empty. It's like God just refurnished. Augie, I want to ask you a couple questions as we leave. Augie, tell us what you know about Jesus that we should know. You know something. You're very talkative. What's happening? All right, then how about you give what do you want us to leave with today? Do you have a word of encouragement?
Give them a topic.
He said, God loves you and so do I. I heard him say it.
Thanks for being with us today. God bless you all. Have a great day. Here's the sign-up sheet, folks.
Great. My grandkids are here. I know, I'll get it. Yeah.